First of all, do you identify as an addict?
I do identify as a coke addict because if I'm around it, I'm still tempted. The very first time I did drugs was in Miami at a David Guetta show at Club Live. That was a weird experience too. I guess I can tell you real quick.
Because I mean, like in recovery, people talk about this psychic change, and I think you had a psychic change. You went through the mill, and you were as far gone as anybody, yes. Really.
Yeah.
But you never went to AA. You don't identify as an alcoholic. You can drink casually. Do you ever find yourself in a situation drinking where you're like near the edge, or you feel like you're losing control or anything like that?
Not really, no. Then the next morning we go get Sarak from across the street. He's like, dude, you got to try apple Sarak. He brings that out. He pours us each a glass. He's like, this is why they call me Sarak Poppy. I died. I was like, people call you Sarak Poppy? He's like, yes, my dealer's name was Sarak Poppy.
Welcome, David Funes, bipolar guy having fun?
Bipolar guy loving life.
I'm such an ass. David Funes, bipolar guy loving life. Welcome to the show. It's funny because Dopey legend Kimber King was like, oh, you got to check out this guy. He's amazing. He's perfect for the show. And I trust Kimber implicitly. She was so excited this morning that you were coming. She's like, is he there? Is he there yet? And then I wrote you and you were like, yeah, I'd come on. And it turned out you had written me on TikTok.
Yep. 2 months before. Yeah, I already knew about Dopey. So I was stoked. And I wanted to come to New York City in person to do the interview. I live in Austin, but I was like, I have to go be on Dopey.
And you first discovered Dopey from Rich Roll.
Yes, Rich Roll. Mm-hmm.
What made you feel so compelled to come on our stupid podcast?
Because I heard the stories and I was like, I identify with these stories. And I've been on a few other podcasts, but they're not really ones I can tell all my crazy stories on. They're more about the comeback and all that, not just the fun side of everything,
What do you think it is because you and I think, are very similar in a lot of ways. What do you think it is that we want to tell that part of the story?
Well, I feel like it makes other people feel seen, heard, and understood. That's something I've realized through posting on social media. I used to be more serious at first with my posts, but I've connected a lot more with people when I talk about dumb shit that I've done, because people feel less alone is what they always tell me, because a lot of people are living in shame and don't really talk about these things. But if someone's open about it, they feel better, I think.
Why do you think there aren't more like places that want to like embrace the real stupidity?
I think a lot of people, first of all, have jobs where
they don't want to risk their families and their
they don't
futures.
want to risk their livelihood, their family, or any of that. I mean, honestly, I didn't tell my story until about a year ago. So I went years without telling my story because I worked in finance, and we'll talk about it later, but I got fired from my job because of my felonies when they found out about them. So after that, I was like, all right, screw it. I'm going to tell my story and try to help people from here on out.
See, when we started, we were just so anonymous. So we didn't say our last name. We didn't show our face. I wouldn't say the restaurant I worked at. We were super anonymous until it actually seemed like somebody was benefiting. But I want to hear your story. And I think in some ways, I will say this, that we're better off that I'm unprepared, because I'll be learning. Learning is a good thing. Like actual learning is good.
True.
So where'd you grow up? What's your story?
Okay. So I grew up in California. I lived there till I was about 10 years old. My story starts pretty crazy, I think, because my very first memory is of my dad strangling my mom in the kitchen.
Where in California?
It's called Vacaville. It's I think it means Cowtown, Vacaville. So it's probably an hour outside San Francisco. But I only lived there till I was 10. But yeah, I think I was 4 years old, and that's my very first memory. My dad was an addict also. So he mainly used coke, I think. I'm sure he used a lot of other stuff too, but he was also a drunk. And I think my mom locked him out. Somehow he figured out a way to get back in the house. And yeah, that's my very first memory of, growing up.
Did they stay together?
They did, but then that's a kind of crazy story too. My so right around Christmas time, a couple years later, my dad brought this lady over to our house, and we were like, who is this lady? And apparently she was a coworker, and he told us, he's like, hey, I'm moving out. I'm moving in with her because she lives closer to work, and we're just friends, blah, blah, blah. In front of my mom, he did that too. So he brings this.
That was how he broke the news to your mother too?
I don't know if that's how he broke the news to her, but he had the audacity to bring his side piece to our house and like introduce her to us.
I think now is a good time to ask, what exactly is bipolar?
Yeah, bipolar is a mood disorder. It's a mental illness. It's characterized by extreme lows, depression, and then extreme highs, which are mania. And that's where most of my crazy stories are going to come from, is the mania mixed from the drug use. Because they kind of go hand in hand. I was telling you earlier, about 50% of people with bipolar are substance abusers. Could be alcohol, could be drugs. It just kind of goes hand in hand with bipolar.
Was your dad bipolar?
Honestly, I think he is, but
he's still alive.
Yeah.
You talked to him?
Yeah, we had a weird relationship. You know, we didn't talk when I was a teenager at all, really. But I've tried to rekindle things. But he's wild sometimes. Like I think a week or two ago, I posted something on TikTok, and he went on an angry rant in my comment section. This will show you why I think he's bipolar. He said something pretty mean, and then the next day he called me and left me a message that he loves me. And I'm like,
what did he say in the comments?
He was basically saying, I use my bipolar as a crutch and an excuse for my behavior, and it's ridiculous or something like that. And then the next day he texted me a picture of his knee because he had knee surgery and called me and said he loved me. Like, he never even apologized. I don't even think he knows he did the comment because he's always blackout drunk. He probably blackout drunk messaged me. And then all these other people in the comments they don't know he's my dad, but they're messaging him like, you're such an asshole. Can't believe you're saying that. Because most of my followers are either, mental illness or substance abuse people.
Totally. And that's I think also a lot of our following too. So
Yeah.
we share probably a lot of broken, beautiful folks.
Yes.
What did your mom do?
So my mom remarried my stepdad now.
No, but what did she do when your dad's like, oh, this is my friend from work, I'm moving in with her? How did your mom react to it?
I honestly, can't, since I was younger, I can't totally remember. I only remember my reaction. I don't really remember hers because my reaction is like, I thought my dad loved me, like why would he not want to be here with us? So I guess a lot of growing up, I didn't feel good enough because my dad moved out like that.
How old were you?
I would say at that point I was like 7, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very young.
Yeah. And I think, so bipolar is normally caused by 2 things. A lot of times genetics, which I know for sure it's on my mom's side. I'm guessing my dad might be too, because my dad's been up and down so much his whole life, lost everything, got it back. He's very smart, makes a lot of money, but then he loses it all and just does crazy stuff. Yeah, so I think it's genetics and trauma typically, and obviously I had both in my life. So a lot of times there's like a genetic predisposition, and then the trauma is like breaks the dam, and all hell breaks loose at some point with the bipolar.
Is there what's like the relationship between bipolar and schizophrenic? People talk about bipolar schizophrenic. Bipolar schizoaffected, I feel like, is something I hear.
I don't know as much. What I will say is schizophrenia, they lose touch with reality pretty much completely. Some bipolar people have something called psychosis, where they completely lose touch with reality. I've never had that. I wish I could say I have, so I could make excuses for some of the things I've done. I've been kind of like in and out of knowing what I'm doing, but I've never been full-blown psychotic where I had no clue of what I did.
And what about manic depression? Is it the same thing, bipolar and manic depression?
It is, because that's
mania and
depression.
Right.
Yep. So I think they used to call it manic depressive, and now bipolar is the more common term.
Yeah, I have a friend who he definitely would kind of border into the psychotic place. Like he's bipolar, but I think he's bipolar schizo affected because
Okay.
like he would wind up like thinking he was in a feud with like famous music producers and try to contact them. And
Yes.
his parents like kidnapped him in the middle of the night and tried to like cure him. And it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
When did you have your first bipolar episode?
I was 20 years old in college when I had my first episode. So you're going to see like my life is almost bipolar because the way I was raised is like in a very Christian home. I even went to Bible college. So
were you going to be some kind of like minister?
Yeah, I was actually.
So what were you like as a kid?
Man, I was a total nerd. I was a runner-up junior state chess champion.
Nice.
But I was raised in a very strict like Baptist Christian home. So like I got grounded for watching Men in Black, basically. They'll tell things like that. My sisters at one point weren't allowed to wear pants because our church said it was against the Bible. I don't know what verse they were using for that. But so yeah, it was just like a very strict upbringing. Then I was in Bible college. And when I was 20, I had my first depressive episode. And normally I'm like a straight A student, but I went from that to starting to fail my classes. I didn't want to get out of bed, didn't want to leave my room, didn't want to talk to my friends. It is very scary because like I wasn't taught about depression growing up. Like mental illness is kind of like taboo in a lot of like religious circles. So I didn't know what was going on basically for a while till finally ended up going to the campus doctor, and they didn't think I was bipolar at that point because I only had the depression, but they put me on like an antidepressant, which I hated because it had bad side effects. So
what were those side effects?
I couldn't sleep well. I had like nausea, like severe nausea and things like that. So I think I took it 3 days. And then I was like, yeah, fuck this. Exactly.
What was the first substance you took?
Okay. So that would have been, I would say, so we're going to fast forward a few years to that. I would say I was 28, I think the first time I did.
Wow.
So okay, we need to tell this story probably first. So
any story you want to tell, let it fly.
Well, I'm going to just kind of go in chronological order.
There was no crazy like mania as a child story?
No.
Okay.
This is where it starts.
Okay.
So in Bible college, I was like 19. I met my college sweetheart. My first time to have sex was my wedding night when I was 21. And then I probably had drank 5 times in my life till I was 26, 27. Like, I'm not kidding about that. But I had my first manic episode at that time. And this one wasn't even as big as the other ones. But I ended up, the very first time I drank, I went out with this girl that was like one of my coworkers. We did tequila shots. That was my first time ever drinking a margarita, drinking tequila. And man, and this is something I'm still like kind of ashamed of. But afterwards, I ended up, we got a hotel together, and I cheated on my ex-wife with her. So my very first time I got drunk, I did something really bad. Like I cheated on my ex. But I went home and told her the next day, and like completely broke off the relationship. And once I did,
why did you break off the relationship?
I think I was manic. So I guess to explain mania, there's a lot of recklessness, impulsivity, bad decisions. Another big part of it is sexual promiscuity. Like when you're manic, most people I talk to that have bipolar have most of these symptoms. So even before that, I was just having this like raging, sexual desire even before it. And that just manifested because that girl liked me. But I didn't, because I grew up like kind of nerdy and stuff. I was a very late bloomer. Girls didn't really like me till my 20s. So I kind of had that sexual promiscuity like going through me already. And yeah,
so you had like the desire, but no way to use it until you hit 20. And then it's like everything opens up to you and you go insane.
Yeah, 26. So
26. But I thought the wedding night was when
I was 21 was my first night but I wasn't manic at that. I didn't have that crazy sexual urge until I was 26 when I had my first manic. So yeah, my wedding night was my first. I think 26 was my second.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait, the first mania was the wedding night or the first sex?
The first sex was my wedding night. The first mania was when I was 26.
So what did you say? But that was you're saying that was the
second time I had sex.
Why didn't you have? Oh, because you had sex with your wife plenty of times between 21.
Yeah. The second time I hooked up with
that was
someone
my confusion.
other than my wife.
That was my confusion.
We got it now. Yeah, but I don't. And then I went from never drinking to I was going out 6 to 7 nights a week and getting like obliterated. I was like, this is fun.
At what age?
At 26.
So late bloomer is right.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember, like, one thing I hear from people who have bipolar is how much they enjoy the mania and how they look forward to the mania. Like, did you find that was happening in your mid-20s?
Yes. The way I describe mania is it's super fun until it's not, because at some point, a lot of times it just turns you down like this really bad dark road. But at first it's fun because the sex drive is awesome. It's like the world is this much brighter place almost. Like everything opens up to you. You start getting grandiosity. So I would get this crazy confidence when I was manic that I could, like basically like Kanye in a way, that I could do anything, that I was the best at this and that. And I actually performed when I was manic. I would crush it at work because like I was doing sales. So no one could say no to me. I was just, in this state basically. So yeah, it can be fun because of those things at first.
Supreme confidence.
Did
you ever read Harry Potter?
I've watched the movies, but I've never read the books.
He takes this potion called, I think it's called Felix Felicis or something.
Okay.
And the idea is that when you take the potion, you have this incredible luck and you can't make a bad decision. Like you're instinctually making the next right decision, which is not what mania actually is, but I bet that's what it feels like.
It doesn't feel like anything can go wrong.
Right, exactly, exactly. So 26, you're drinking 6-7 days a week.
Yeah, so I went home and told my wife, now ex-wife, obviously, obviously she was devastated. She didn't see it coming at all. Then from there, I just moved out and started partying every night.
And what is the new you like?
All my coworkers were surprised because I never went out for beers with the boys or like anything like that. And now I'm trying to get them to party way harder than I'm like, dude, let's go out this night and this night. Let's go out on Monday night and stay out till 2 or whatever. So like my family, everyone was very surprised just because I went to church. I think I taught like a small group there. So it's just very obviously unlike my character. And at this point, no one knew I was bipolar. They just thought I was acting out.
Is that regular with this kind of stuff, that it comes out late and it comes out of nowhere, and it's like drug addiction? It turns you into a different person.
Yes.
And everybody perceives you probably like, who is this person? Yeah,
in your 20s is the average age when like bipolar, mania or depression comes out. So yeah, that's pretty normal. And then being diagnosed as bipolar is a few years. It normally takes a few years because most people go to the hospital, go to get help when they're depressed, not when they're manic, because again,
you feel so good.
Yeah. So like, why would you go get help when you feel so good? But a lot of people do find out they're bipolar when they're manic because they hit full-blown psychosis where they lose touch with reality and have to be like committed to a mental hospital.
So you're functioning well at work. You're going out. You're hooking up. It's working out. Sales are good.
Yep.
When do things start to not look so good?
Well, not right away, but I think the next story to tell is, so I'm still married, right? And then, so this is going to show irrational thinking again. I was trying to file for the divorce, but I think I filed in the wrong county or whatever. But I meet this like Mexican nanny. She's an au pair is what they call them. And another symptom of mania is you like fall in love fast a lot of times. So I fell in love like very quickly with this girl.
I think I heard this story.
I think we were dating like 2 months, and then she sprung it on me that she has to go back to Mexico if if we didn't, get married or whatever. And she didn't know I wasn't divorced yet. She thought I was single. So I don't know. I was like, all right, let's do this. So I I get on a plane. I'm like practicing my broken Spanish, and I fly to Mexico City to meet her mom and the abuelitas, abuelos, whatever they are. And yeah, no one knows I'm still married, you know. But this is the bipolar. Like I was like, oh, I'll be able to get divorced before we actually get married or whatever.
And wait, hold on. Where did you meet her?
I was hooking up with the German nanny first, and in Jacksonville, all the nannies.
Hold on. When did you wind up? When you first got married, where did you live?
This is in Jacksonville,
in Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
And was your wife from there too?
No, we met in college in Florida. She was from Colorado.
So you stay in Jacksonville.
Yes.
The mania bursts open. You cheat on your wife.
Yeah.
You say, I need to leave you. And then when do you stumble onto the nanny scene of Jacksonville?
Well,
And why does the German nanny not get any mention? Why do you jump right to the Mexican nanny?
That's why you're the host. Pretty soon after my wife, I meet the nannies, and
what did you have children?
No
so
children.
What brought you to were you at the playground? Like, what were you doing?
No, I met the German nanny and her German nanny friends at a club, right? So I start hooking up with her, and she teaches me all about the nannies. So there's like a web.
What about the nannies?
There's like this website where wealthy people go on, and they find nannies all over the world,
but not to have sex with them, to hire them.
So the German nanny had an interesting situation. The mom that she nannied for hated her because she looked like a younger version of, like, the dad picked her because she was a younger version of the mom, and the mom like hated her because of that. But there were some nannies there's one Spanish nanny that hooked up with the dad, and he left his wife and like
for the nanny.
I'm sure that definitely happens. Yeah.
So how do you move? How do you pivot from German? And how well can the German speak English or the Mexican speak English?
Good enough. I mean, They both had broken English, but it's good enough. So I was at another club with the German nanny, and all the nannies, they're called au pairs. They all hung out together.
I know what an au pair is.
Okay. Not everyone on the listening probably does. All the nannies hung out together. There's like 30 of them probably in Jacksonville, and because they bond because they're nannies. They're live-in nannies. So
no, the scene must be insane. I have a friend, a very old friend, who met a Swiss au pair when we were 20 or something, and we were playing like in a band in Westchester. The Swiss au pair was best friends with a French au pair who was dating the bass player. My friend met the Swiss au pair. Maybe he's a little bipolar. Fell in love with her immediately.
Yeah.
But then they're still married though.
Okay.
To this day.
Okay.
They have 5 children, and he's very successful actually.
Wow.
But
so you know the nanny scene a little bit.
And then where I live, there was a family that kept getting different au pairs from everywhere.
Yeah, like every year you can get a new one.
Right, and that must be very difficult for the children and the parents.
Yeah.
But okay, we have German au pair, and you didn't fall in love with her.
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I just didn't.
The magic wasn't there.
This wasn't there. But I'm at another club. All the nannies are there. And I see this Mexican nanny. And I was like super attracted to her. So the German nanny goes to the bathroom. I talk to the Mexican nanny, get her number. We go out. So I wasn't like officially in a relationship with the German nanny. We were just hanging out. But I get the Mexican nanny's number, and then we start dating. And that's the one I fell in love with, obviously.
And does she fall in love with you just as quickly?
Man, this is the hard part. I don't think I was really in love with her, but I thought so because of my mania. And I don't know if she really loved me or wanted to stay here. Like, I have no idea.
I think that's also the intoxicating nature of love itself.
Yeah.
Right? So you go to Mexico.
I go to Mexico. I meet her mom. Well, they live in like this compound outside Mexico City. There's all the family lives there, a bunch of farm animals. It's like rural, like interesting place. But I used my broken Spanish on the mom. It wasn't very good. Then everyone like gets excited.
How broken is broken?
Like really bad.
Like how many words, how many phrases do you think you have?
Oh, now almost none. But then I think I got most of it right. She corrected me a couple times. I was just memorizing, like, basically, I want to ask for your permission to marry your daughter. So I got most of it right.
So
it was
you were
only a
like,
few
I'm
sentences.
marrying this Mexican nanny.
I thought so, yeah. I mean, so I get their permission. Afterwards, they have like this big party there. There's like mariachi, like it's almost like a movie scene. Then we fly back to the US and we go ring shop. We went ring shopping and all that. I was going to marry this girl. I'm still not divorced either, but in my mind, I was going to marry her. But then that's when I had my very worst depressive episode. And that's where I became very suicidal. So
was it because you were engaged to the Mexican nanny?
No. Because there was nothing bad in my. That's something about bipolar is the episodes can come for no reason at all, or something can cause them. I had some later ones that really bad shit happened, which I'll talk about, and obviously I got depressed. But nothing had changed in my life in a negative way. I just got like super depressed all of a sudden. I was like suicide was all I could think about. I would I'm allowed to talk about that on here,
Definitely.
right? Okay. Yeah, like I lived close to work, and on my lunch break at work, I would just like drive home and stand in my garage, like, trying to get the courage to flood it with carbon monoxide. I was too scared to shoot myself. So like, I was like, I need to figure out a different way to do this. I had pills I would like put in my hand all the time, but I just never quite
What kind of pills?
This is bad. I don't even remember. They were my roommate's pills though. I don't even remember what they were. And I can't, I don't remember what kind of, I don't quite remember what they were.
How close to suicidal do you think you actually were? Because we laugh about everything, but it must have been incredibly scary and horrible.
To be honest, what I think I would have done it, but I really think what held me back, which is, obviously I talked about the upbringing that was really tough. But in my mind, there was like this really weird thought that maybe suicide is like an unpardonable sin. I don't think that now, but like back then I was like, what if I do this and I like go to hell or something? Like, so I think that I wanted to end my life, but I was like, I don't know what will happen afterwards. Maybe if I kill myself, I'm going to be in the very worst place for eternity. So I think that is what kept me from doing it.
And then how did your Mexican fiance deal with your depression?
She was that's a good thing to talk about. She was so surprised because when you're manic, like all you want to do, like my sex drive was through the roof. But when I became depressed, it's very hard to have sex. Like you don't want to. It's just hard to even function sexually sometimes. So bipolar, it's tough because about 80%, some of the statistics say, of bipolar marriages like end in divorce because it's very hard for like the partner to deal with, or just relationships, period. So she got very confused. She thought I didn't love her anymore because I'm going from love bombing her, like always hooking up with her, to like this totally more disassociated person.
So when you're in your depression, she's like, this probably isn't happening.
No, she didn't quite think that yet. She just thought I was in a funk. But then what happened is I like finally had a moment of clarity in the depression, and I packed a bag and I drove myself to the nearest mental hospital.
And that was the first time you did that?
Yeah. I checked myself, which that was surprising. Apparently most people don't actually check themselves in, they get committed. But yeah, I showed up with all the wrong stuff. They're like, oh, you can't have your razor. We're going to take your shoelace. They took a bunch of shit out of my bag, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, okay, I just want the pain to end, but I don't think I want to die anymore. So I got there.
Do you remember what you were thinking when you were like, I need to check in?
Yeah, like I think my biggest fear was that I'd be stuck. Like I was like, maybe I'm a crazy person and I might like stay here forever. I think that was what scared me the most, was being stuck in a mental hospital, because I didn't know how it worked really. I just Googled like basically like what to do if I'm suicidal, and there was a place like 5 minutes from me.
See, I think that's really important information though, because a lot of people probably don't go because they're ashamed or they're scared, and you had the wherewithal to seek something to get out of it because you must have been so miserable.
Yeah, I'm glad I had that moment of clarity, because who knows what would have happened. But that is when I got diagnosed as bipolar, finally. So I had my first episode when I was 20. This is probably 27, so 7 years later. And I was there, and this doctor came in to see me, and he's like, tell me everything. And I talk about the depression. But when I go back over the wife stuff, the nanny stuff, the partying every night stuff, and he knew I didn't party at all before. There's some excessive spending too, which that's another big symptom of bipolar is excessive spending. I like bought this Jeep that I didn't need. I was trying to buy another house when I already had one. I was just like spending spree mode basically. So
well, you're trying to like feel dopamine, like those weird seeking the high.
Yeah.
And it's in love, it's in spending, it's in sex. And then eventually I bet it's in drugs.
Yes, that comes very soon after. I would say it's total pleasure seeking, hedonistic. That's how mine manifests. I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but mine manifested in whatever felt best I was gonna do. Whatever was most fun, I was gonna do it. That is how I got. So we'll finish with that. So I think I was there like 5 days at the mental hospital. It's called Wakiva Springs in Jacksonville.
Shout out to Wakiva Springs.
Yeah. Yep.
It makes me think that probably, they talk about a spectrum, you know what I mean, in general. And like nowadays you see somebody who you think is all fucked up and you're like, oh, he's probably on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I bet you the spectrum is really wide and we're all on it. Like, because I'm pleasure seeking and probably most drug addicts have some bipolar to their thing. And it's like, where does one start and another designation end?
That's that question is such a hard question. I think a lot of bipolar people struggle with it.
And you're not a psychiatrist or a doctor or a scientist.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the hardest questions like that I get asked and that I even ask myself is, what would I have actually done if I was not bipolar versus if I was? Because we're going to talk about my crime and just all this other crazy stuff. And it's really hard because I think you have to take responsibility for your behavior. But I know like none of this stuff is characteristic of who I was for so many years of my life. So it's really hard. And I think a lot of us struggle with it. That's probably one of the things I get asked the most is people are dealing with shame, but they're like, I don't even know if I did this of my own volition or not, The
craziest thing to me is like doing this show, I talk to some medical people and some like experts, and I talked to a bunch of addicts, and you happen to have a social media account called Bipolar Guy Loving Life, and I'm like, you better know the answer to this. But you ask everybody, and the scientist isn't really going to be able to explain it either.
Yeah.
There is, I feel like it's very hard for it to be explained properly.
Mental health is the toughest one. Pretty much every other medical field, it's like, okay, this is what's wrong with you. We can give you this, but mental health is so trial and error. There's everyone is on different meds for bipolar. Like a lot of people are always like, hey, what meds are you on? And I have to always say the caveat, what works for me might not work for you. Because I probably have been on a dozen or more medications before I got on the ones that actually worked right for me, because there's side effects. Some make you feel like a zombie. You can't function at all. So it's a very tough field because, it's super like trial and error. I hope someday it won't be like that.
Well, the other thing I heard was that you can have somebody going through a total manic episode and look at their brain and not see any difference in their brain.
One thing I have heard more recently is that some scientists are saying that a part of your brain can shrinks potentially when they're manic. I don't have the site on that. People can look it up, but that is something that some doctors are saying now, is that part of your brain actually shrinks potentially when you're manic.
So what's the first drug they give you when you get out of the hospital?
Well, when I was in the hospital, they gave me Seroquel.
That's a good one. It's very relaxing.
I'm actually still on Seroquel.
Nice.
Yeah, but I stopped taking it a bunch of times during all this. But that one, I think what saved me with that one is it helped me sleep. So I didn't mention it, but part of my depression that is like really weird is I was extremely tired and lethargic all the time, but I couldn't sleep either. So that exacerbated my depression. I wasn't sleeping. So obviously your mind's kind of fucked up when you're not sleeping. But yeah, the Seroquel helped me sleep. And I got to a place where I wasn't suicidal or whatever after like 5 days. So they let me leave. But then I was supposed to go on a drug more for my mania. I think they put me on lithium or Depakote first. but they both made me like a shell of myself, a walking zombie. So I was like, screw this. And I threw them out. And that's when I got into, this is when the drug stuff starts. So at that point, I threw out my manic drugs. I became manic again. And the very first time I did drugs was in Miami at a David Guetta show at Club Live. That was a weird experience too. I guess I can tell you real quick because it was not actually ecstasy or Molly. I forget which one it was, but that stuff was laced for sure. Because I've never acted the way I did that first night. At first it felt. I've done Molly a bunch after that. At first it felt like all the Molly stuff. The music feels amazing. Someone touches you and you're like shivering. The lights, it was awesome at first, but then I like lost touch with reality. I was like trying to make out with my chick friend, and I like tried to make out with my guy friend, and I've never kissed a guy. I'm not gay at all. Nothing wrong with it, but so I'm like trying to kiss everyone around me. Like,
but that's classic. That seems like it's classic ecstasy.
I've never done that before. Though.
I never tried to kiss a dude on ecstasy, but I did feel that kind of ecstasy, sensuality,
that's
feeling.
Yes, the sensuality for sure. But that's the only time I ever tried to do that. Then I
bet it was the mania. I bet it was like,
I think it was both together.
Seems like a good mix.
Then I climbed into like people's VIP sections and just started grabbing their bottles and just chugging bottles of tequila.
Like that
no, they don't like that.
So what happened then?
So we ended up having to. I don't remember if we kicked out or if my friends just pulled me out there because they were embarrassed. But then they took me back to the hotel room and I was saying this crazy shit. I said, I was trying to break out of the hotel and I said, I'm going to wander the streets, kill or be killed is what I kept saying. They're like, I was like, I've never even thought that in my mind. But like my friend Sarah, she was like the first person I did drugs with, but she's an actual pharmacist. So she unfortunately had to deal with all my shit that night and like talk me down and try to, I think they gave me some Xanax and like put me to sleep finally, but I was like out of control.
I think that was probably a good thing because she knew your brain chemistry was mixing with the drugs in a way that needed to be regulated.
And then later someone said it was a bad batch. Like there was this thing that we thought there might be like bath salts in it because that was during that time. Right around that same time was when the Miami guy like ate the other dude's face.
The great Flocka bath salt thing.
Yeah, which makes sense if I wanted to wander the streets, kill or be killed. Like, who knows what I've been doing?
That was like 2011.
That was right around that time. Yep.
I remember I was in treatment. I was in treatment then when those headlines.
Yeah, that's exactly what this was. Yeah, 11 or 12, somewhere around that. Because right around that time, the dude had eaten the dude's face off. So yeah.
Well, luckily that didn't happen. Happen to you.
So that's
or anybody else from you.
I probably should have never done drugs again after that. But so from there, it was pretty innocent. After that, I'm going to.
But hold on, what? It was your first taking drugs?
I never did. I started right with Molly and ecstasy. I never smoked weed until later or any of that. That was my first. So I must have been like 28 maybe at that time. The first time I did drugs.
Is it a fair question as to like what led up to it, or is the answer just mania?
Mania, I think. So yeah, maybe I was 27 then. So I'm trying. I don't remember the exact age, but the mania went hand in hand with. I never had a desire to do drugs until the mania happened. Yeah.
And then who was the person that was like, "Oh, I have ecstasy with Flocka or whatever, bath salts if you want to try it"?
My buddy from work, and then my pharmacy friend. She worked at the pharmacy, and she's the one who introduced me to coke afterwards. So honestly, it was pretty innocent. After that, I loved EDM music. Even after that David Guetta experience, Avicii was my first show actually. So that was like really sad when he passed. But yeah, so I'm going to all these music festivals, doing Molly and ecstasy. Those are the only drugs I did until coke. Coke was my second drug I ever tried. And
same woman gives you the coke?
Yeah, she ended up, and
doesn't she know this is going to be a problem?
Maybe. Well, I knew about coke way before then, but I was scared of it because like snorting it, like putting something up my nose kind of scared me. I found out about it pretty quickly in the party scene, but like I was a little nervous to do it. But then I was like, this girl's a pharmacist. Like, she probably has good coke. I think I could trust her. But like,
was she getting the pharmaceutical coke?
I don't think, no, it wasn't pharmaceutical. It was just regular coke. I mean, I wish, but no. But that, like, immediately when I did that, I was like, this is it. Like, this is my drug. I love this shit. Like, I want to keep doing it. So I was like, give me your guy's number. And I immediately, like, so it gets way worse as we go. But I started doing it like most every night I went out. But at this point, I wasn't using all day, every day. I was using when I went out for the most part. So yeah, pretty quickly I started using. I think back then I was going through not a crazy amount, maybe a couple grams a week or something like that. But I was using it every time I went out.
Does the coke stave off depression? So it's not going to happen. It's a way to keep out of that part.
It can prolong your mania for sure. There's two different types of bipolar. Well, two main ones. There's like rapid cycling, which maybe you're depressed or manic for a few days, then you can flip to stable or flip back. Mine were long cycling, like months. But then the coke made it even longer because stimulants with bipolar can just they're not good. Basically, when you're manic, they make you like extremely manic, not just like regularly manic.
When people talk about addiction, they'll often talk about like your addiction is a disease that's in your head and your disease is in the part. It's like one of the great cliches of recovery is that your disease is in the parking lot doing push-ups while you're in the meeting, so that when you get out of the meeting, your disease is gonna take you. And what I'm kind of the idea that I'm kind of hearing is like your mania wants the coke to keep it on. It's like, let's do the coke so we can stay like this.
And I have a Vegas story I'm going to tell you in a little bit that is the one thing I'll say about it now is I was actually able to throw myself out of a depressive episode into a manic episode because I did so much drugs in Vegas. I'll tell it in a minute. I was there for 12 straight nights in Vegas. I almost died out there, but
everything is going along okay though when you first introduce coke, or are you just like, this is the reason that I am supposed to be alive?
But I wasn't like, I mean, I used way more later. Like I said, I think I was doing a couple grams a week, like nothing ridiculous. But then it started to get worse and worse because it helped me party longer, obviously. And so then it started to get where if I was tired in the morning, I would maybe do a bump, sometimes in the work bathroom or in my car because I was tired. Like, I was like, I don't need to go take a nap in my car. I'll just go do a bump. So it started to get worse and worse. But this is where the crime element comes into my story, because through partying, I meet this cast of characters, that's what I'll call them. And so first of all, I never wanted, same as drugs, I never thought about doing crime either. Me doing crime, the whole thing about it was I wanted to party harder. And in my mind, I was like, more money, more party. So I'll explain what it was really quick because it is interesting. And a lot of people have gotten this. This is not only my company, but have you heard of compounding medications, compounding creams?
No, tell me.
Okay. So my company had figured out a way where if you compound certain ingredients together, like a pharmacist like crushes them up or whatever, you can bill out a really exorbitant amount to an insurance company. But all the insurance companies had figured this out and like cut the reimbursement, except for the government insurance, of course. Like, they're always slow to do everything at TRICARE. So some of these creams could bill out to like 15 or 20 grand a month is what TRICARE would pay for them. And these people that, I don't want to say their names, I don't want to get in trouble or anything like that.
Sure.
But with that, so they're like, hey, if you get someone to get a prescription for this cream and it's $20,000, you can get 20% of it. Like on one person's prescription, I could be making like $4 grand a month.
So it's like body brokering for prescriptions.
Yeah, but it's not. The one thing I want to say so people don't hate me is it was not something that
nobody's going to hate you. Our whole audience is drug addicts that did horrible stuff. Just do drugs. That's what you did. Don't feel any kind of shame on this show about it. The stuff we do, it's how addiction operates.
Well, but there's that movie Pain Hustlers. I wanted to make sure people knew I wasn't like getting people to do opioid. Like I felt like these are just creams that you put on your body that we're paying out $12,000. I don't even know if they worked or not.
What do they do?
Well, there's one for migraines. You can put this cream on your head. I don't even know if they worked, man. Scars, pain, migraines, things like that.
Who's paying $20,000 for creams, period?
Well, TRICARE was paying that out. So if a doctor wrote the prescription, we could bill out TRICARE for 20 G's.
How did you find people that might be interested in this?
We targeted the guy who, I gotta be careful how I say this, the guy who taught me this. He's like, do you know anybody that's in the military or ex-military with TRICARE? I was like, yeah, like my whole family basically is, and a lot of friends. He's like, if you can get them to go to the doctor, and they get this prescription, you'll get paid. I was like, how am I going to get them to go to the doctor? He's like, why don't you just pay them? I was like, great idea. So I was paying people $500 a month.
So you can make your $4,000.
Yeah, so I'd be like, hey, Dave, you have TRICARE. I'll give you $500 a month. I was like, if you get a 6-month prescription, you'll make $3,000. And so you're spending what, a half hour, an hour in the doctor. But I still don't understand how the doctors did this. We had a script pad and I would write the prescription and the person would walk in with the prescription I already wrote and they were...
And you were not a doctor,
no,
nor a pharmacist.
But I didn't sign it, but they would walk in and we would tell them to say, hey, my buddy tried this.
Well, this is Florida, though.
Yeah.
That's why.
It's the Wild West.
The answer is Florida. The answer to this question is Florida because the doctors are making money too.
Well, that also a lot of people were paying doctors also. That's how you really made money is if you paid a doc, like if you're splitting, you'd obviously probably go 50-50 with the doctor, but the patient wasn't any wise. You give them like 500. But yeah, they'd go in and the doctor, you would just say to the doctor, hey, I have this script right here. My buddy took this already and it works for him. It's just like a scar and pain cream. Can I try this? And the doctor I wrote the prescription, but obviously I wasn't a doctor, so I couldn't sign it. And I marked this it was like 480 milliliters. I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount it was like this big of a cream each month that no one could ever use, maybe bigger than that. But yeah, the doctor wrote it. Not every time, but most of the time, the doctor would sign off on it.
Well, everybody's benefiting. And what's your Coke use skyrocketing to?
Well, the problem, so my work kept me with this semblance of not going off the rails completely. But once I started making enough money on this scheme, I quit my job.
Wow.
Because I was like,
you had been in finance?
Yeah, I was in finance. And I very quickly, obviously, started making a lot more doing this. I was like, fuck finance. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to party all the time. And that's when my Coke went off the rails.
I want to commit cream fraud for my crazy Coke and clubbing times.
Dude, this is the crazy part about bipolar. And a lot of bipolar people commit crime too. I think just because I got in the crime though, what I did kind of was on another level. But so many other people that are bipolar like shoplift or do some sort of crime. Basically, it's very normal. But so what was I going to say? So yeah, with that, I started.
How big does your cream empire grow to?
The top people were making in the millions.
Wow.
I made several 100,000, but and we'll talk about this later because so I never looked into the consequences of this, right? Like I had no idea of any of that, but and a normal person would be like, okay, what's going to happen if I do this crime? But yeah, I had no idea. So so after that, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, the crazy part after that is I wasn't working anymore. So these people at my company were degenerates, basically, right? So we would go to the strip club. A lot of times during the week, we would go at noon, basically, noon or 1, and we get bottle service at the strip club. Like we had an office, but we didn't work really. Like,
how did you find the guy, or how did he find you?
Through partying,
right?
And some of my other party friends were already doing this, so I was like, I want to do this too. So, yeah, we're going to the strip club a lot and just doing a bunch of coke. Most of them were doing drugs too, and we're just. That was my normal life, was going to the strip club and during the day, and then we'd go back out at night. And that's when my coke use started to get out of control because I wasn't working. Like my job was finding people with this insurance and paying them. That was all I was doing.
And so, and you didn't have to get up in the morning,
Mm-mm.
and you're going to the strip club now, and you're doing coke all day, and so all of your crime, and how come I've never heard of this weird cream ring thing?
If you Google it, there's
what do they call it?
Just look up compounding medication fraud or compounding cream fraud.
All right, Dopey Nation, if any of you have ever made thousands of dollars hustling creams, please send in an email or a voicemail to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. So what happens next?
Okay, so this is where it starts going off the rails badly. So I think I did this for about a year is when we partied hard. Like my boss took us on something called the Trip of Death, is what we called it. So we went for 3 nights in Miami, like all out bottle service, like ridiculous partying. Then we jumped on a plane and flew to Vegas and did the exact same thing for like 3 nights. And so that was basically what we were doing, is just partying nonstop, Miami, Vegas, wherever we wanted to go. But then in May of 2015, this is where it got crazy. The FBI raided our office in 2015. And that was a crazy situation because I was driving on the way to work and I get this call from the guy I worked across the hall at like an insurance company. And he called me and tells me, there's a bunch of FBI agents in your office. I'm like, shut up. Like, stop fucking with me, basically. And he's like, no, there is. And he had to tell me a couple of times. And I was like, shit. And I flipped my car around, drove home. And I was like, are they going to like come here for me? And this is where my irrational mania is also going. So I grab all these boxes of what I think might be incriminating evidence. I throw it in my car and I'm driving around to like different dumpsters all over town, like ripping shit up and throwing it away. I'm like, they're not going to find these documents and all this. So I do that. Then I locked myself in my house, and my best friend was also involved in this. So like later he came and told me, he's like, yeah, they were asking about you at the office. He got interrogated.
The whole office is dedicated to compounding though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're trying, it's a front where like people think we're doing legitimate business. But apparently like the guy on the phone, my other buddy was saying they were like looking through the ceiling tiles for shit. They were taking all the computers. So they like took everything basically. And my buddy told me, we gotta go get a lawyer. At this point, we're probably in trouble. And that's when me and him got the same lawyer together. We're like, we know everything about each other. We got a discount by like doing that, I guess. And that's when I found out I was facing up to like 7 years in prison.
Wow.
Because it's not based on how much I made. It's based on the loss amount to the government. And they were saying at that time I cost them like $3.7 million in this fraud. And some of the other people were way higher than that too. So my buddy was facing even more than me. And then the top people were facing like, I think my boss at one point was facing 14 to 18 years.
Wow. It must have been so much money. And through that period, are you taking anything to come down off the coke? Or are you just like I never could take an upper without a downer because I would feel so uncomfortable from the upper.
Well, I was taking the Seroquel to try to get some sleep. But I've never been a downer person. Like I've never abused opioids. I've never
But at the end
heroin.
of a crazy coke run, just a lot of Seroquel will do it.
Oh no, I was just taking the regular amounts. Because so that would help me still be able to kind of sleep. I didn't sleep great and I didn't need a lot of sleep, but the Seroquel will kind of help balance it out. But later I quit the Seroquel so I could party even harder. But yeah, at that time I was still doing the Seroquel to try to sleep a little bit. So after that, what happened next was...
Did you go into depression from this thing?
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So me and my buddy... we had a lot of money still, so we weren't working. Jacksonville has a lot of beach bars, so we would just go and sit all day and like misery drink at the beach bars. But then my buddy, I think it was a couple weeks later, my buddy had this bright idea. He's like, why are we, drinking at the beach bars? We could go to Vegas. We still have money. We can. And I was like, dude, that's a good idea. Maybe I can kick my depression in Vegas. And
seems like a good idea.
yeah. And we were supposed to go for 3 days. Like we booked a 3-day trip, and I did kick my depression. I had a guy in Vegas. He's the most punctual dealer I've ever had. He worked the strip, and he would be there in a half hour to an hour every time I called him. So that's dangerous. And Vegas, the blow is a lot more expensive back then. This is in I think we're in 2015 now. So I think I was paying like 300 or 3 something for an 8-ball, which in Jacksonville it was closer to 200. So, but
everything's cheaper in Florida.
Yeah, it's the Wild West, man. But so I kicked my depression into this full blown mania while I'm in Vegas, and my buddy goes home, and I'm like, I'm staying out here. He's like, by yourself? I'm like, there's chicks I was hooking up with,
Where
people
were
I
you
was
staying?
meeting. I was staying right. It was not on the strip. At this place called Rio Hotel. It's like very close to the strip. We had this big old suite there with like a bathtub in the living room and stuff.
So you're like, fuck it, I'm moving into this hotel in Vegas permanently.
I didn't know how long I was going to be there, but
no money's coming in.
I had a ton of money though from the other stuff. And so when I kicked the depression and mania, I was like excited at the time. I was like, yeah, like this feels good. And I'm, going through at least an 8-ball a day at that point.
Hold up for 1 second.
Yeah.
You grew up this church-going conservative kid that winds up in Bible college, losing his virginity on his wedding night, planning to become a minister. Yeah. Super mild-mannered your whole life. Now, fast forward to 27 years old, right? Around
so this is
29?
Now 2015. So I would say I was like 31.
Fine.
31.
Fuck everything. I'm living in a hotel, stack of money, doing coke, hooking up with whoever I can, drinking, committing fraud and profiting from it. Yes. And like, do you ever remember any self-reflective moments?
There was none.
None.
Okay, during the depression there was, but during the mania, not at all. So
were there any depressions in that period?
Yeah. That was that quick depression right after I got busted by the feds. But I think that only lasted a couple of weeks because I threw it into a manic episode. So
because it was very intentional. I'm going to treat this depression with cocaine in Las Vegas.
Oh, I purposely did this.
Yeah, and it worked.
I didn't know I'd throw myself into a manic episode. I was just hoping to become back to normal. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm just starting this depression. If I can somehow flip it by doing a bunch of drugs. This is the only time I've actually ever been able to do that successfully. I think I just caught it like ahead of time. But yeah, when I was depressed, I was definitely thinking about the crime and realizing I did something really bad. Because when you're depressed, you can think a little more straight. Although when I was depressed, I would say my mind was like 100 times. It was like slow as molasses is what I would call it. Is a lot slower. So I've lost jobs when I'm depressed. I've lost a lot of things because I can't think very well.
Well, your mind is also so accelerated when you're manic that probably normal feels like molasses.
Maybe, yeah, that's probably part of it too. But it is even worse than that. So yeah, I'm in Vegas now, and okay, like I think while my buddy was still there, the 3rd day I should have went to the hospital because we had like a VIP cabana in the pool. We were at the Marquee Day Club, and I don't even do backflips, but
oh my God.
I thought I should do a backflip from our cabana. I could show you a picture later of me about to do it. So I'm like hanging from the railing and I do a backflip, but I misjudged the pool and I have a big scar from this on my leg. I hit the side of the pool and like blood's everywhere. In the pool. Wow. Girls are screaming. They take me to the medic. He's like, dude, you got to get stitches. This is really bad. I didn't hardly feel it because I was so like intoxicated and I was just like, bandage me up. I want to keep partying. So I keep partying. That late, I ended up staying out there 12 nights. And I think on night like 7 or 8, I ended up in the hospital for this thing because it got like really infected. It was like gruesome at this point. The doctor looks at me. He's like, dude, I had lost a lot of weight at this time. He's like, you need to go home. Like when he found out where I was from, he's like, you're going to die if you keep partying like this.
Because he could tell.
Oh, he could tell. I looked bad. Like my friends were calling me from home, like trying to get me to come home. I'm like, no, I have all my new friends here now, basically. I almost got arrested there because I was at, which club? Excess. Club Excess has like this outside area. And I was so messed up. I was at my VIP table. I'm just doing coke right off the table, I guess in front of everyone. And our hostess told the bouncer, and the bouncer like grabbed me. He's like, "I'm taking you to the cops, blah, blah, blah." And I saw an ATM as we're about to go out. I was like, how much money is it going to take for me to
not see the cops?
Yeah, I gave him $500, and he's like, "I'm going to set you up on the other side of the club so the hostess doesn't see you. Do not go back over here again." So he like moves my shit, and I avoided going to jail that time.
It's a great $500 well spent.
Best $500 ever. But yeah, I was out there 12 nights. The last night, I almost got fucked on my tab. I think they knew I was messed up. They tried to bring me at this $100,000 bottle of champagne.
Wow.
And like, good thing I caught it. Like I had that much in my bank account. So like I probably almost spent that. Like I'm guessing a girl at the table ordered it. There's this club called, I don't know if they still do it, called Dre's, but they give you something called a girls guy. And this guy, you tell him what kind of girls you like, and he goes and picks them like out of the crowd and brings them to your table. But I like fired him because he was bringing like,
the wrong type of girl.
Yes. So
you're I just want Mexican nannies. What are you bringing me?
Bring me all the nannies. But yeah,
all the nannies.
Yeah.
What was he bringing?
More like cougars, and I was into younger girls, so like couldn't, I don't know, whatever. Okay. But so yeah, finally like the 12th day, I was like, I really feel like I might be dying. Like I'm like looking at my phone, and it's all like blurry because I'm like trying to book a hotel flight.
Did you sleep at all in those 12 days?
A little bit here and there, but not much at all. I think I was buying about an 8-ball a day. I was sharing it with all my new friends, so I wasn't like doing it all myself, but yeah, finally on the 12th day, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to go home. So I'm in the airport, like sweating bullets. Like, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I went into like this fever dream on the plane. Like I felt like I was almost nodding in and out of consciousness. But yeah, when I got back to Jacksonville, I spent 3 days in bed. Except for eating, I really felt like so sick from that experience.
You felt like you were like, was that when serious depression hits you?
No, I actually didn't get hit with, I was still manic after that. I just needed to recover for those 3 days. And then my mania continued.
And the fraud shit is over, right?
The fraud shit's over.
And you have a bunch of money still.
So, but
what was the most money you had in that period?
Over $500K.
That's crazy.
It's bad for a drug addict to have that much money.
Well, it beats not having, I mean, I don't know what's worse. Not having enough money is, I think, worse than having too much.
True, because you get into different
problems.
I've heard a lot of your guests on, so they got into a whole different type of trouble.
All right, so you have over $500,000.
Yeah,
you're no work. You're out of Vegas. No. You're back in Jacksonville, and what happens?
Then me and my buddy got this idea. He's like, "Hey, I figured out this other thing we can do in Austin, Texas." Where he said he figured out a way to legally pay doctors through like workman's comp claims. He's like, this pharmacy said it's legal. I'm like, we just got in trouble for paying doctors and patients. He's like, no, dude, this one's legal. So we go to Austin.
What was the scam exactly?
This one I don't remember as well because it didn't work. After 2 weeks, the company called and said, okay, you can't actually pay doctors to do this. It had to do with workman's comp claims, though, and paying doctors if they did these claims a certain way. That's all I remember because I only did it for like 2 weeks and I was really fucked up the whole time on drugs too. So I wasn't doing anything. My buddy was doing everything. But when I went to Austin, I was like, fuck Jacksonville. Austin is awesome because the partying was so much better. So I immediately was like, I'm going to move here. But I was in no place of mind to get a place. So my buddy's like, he wanted to live there too. He's like, all right, I'll book us a place. You pay half, I'll pay half. And I moved to Jacksonville. I moved to Austin after that.
Austin is great city.
Love it. I still live there.
I know. I had some really fun times in Austin, and I've rarely had fun times anywhere. So the fact that I can remember Austin as being such a good time, that school and the town and music and food and fun and now comedy. So, but your life is about to take like a horrible nosedive there.
Yeah. I guess the next thing we could talk about is I had the money and I was like most people with money would buy like a nice car or I don't know, a house or a boat or something. I was like, what do I like to do the most? Party. So I was like, and then this guy presented me this opportunity to buy into a nightclub with him.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, how much is this going to cost? He's like 80 grand. Cause like we didn't own the building. We were like, we had the equipment and we were like paying rent. He's like 80,000 and you can own half the club. And I was like, okay, like it's cheaper there. And this was a after hours club. It held like 305 people. It's called The Vault.
Did you get a tuxedo and like wander around?
I never wore a tuxedo, but I guess you could. Yeah. But what we were doing was, you can in Austin you can't serve alcohol after 2 a.m. So he figured this all out, not me, but like we had liquor lockers there. So if you could become a member, we'd have like your liquor already waiting in the locker. You're paying a membership. Like any way to like not pay for alcohol, we would do. Like you could pay for a table and we'd comp you a bottle. So we were just giving
away alcohol,
but they're paying for other things.
Right,
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I bought into this club with him and that was super bad for me because now instead of like running the club like he was, I was like, I want to be like a silent partner. And I would get the biggest section every night. He gets so pissed at me. And I just bring all my friends and like party in my own club and just get like blitzed and blacked out. And then like I would use the office as like my coke den. I'd be like hooking up with chicks back there. I feel like that was like, I was most excited as a manic person at that point.
Right, you had
like,
everything.
I was like in Disney World, in my opinion, at that point.
Well, you ran a club. Yeah. You weren't depressed. You were high on mania.
Super manic.
High on what's a higher high, mania or coke? Or I guess you don't know because it was coke plus mania.
Yeah, they're both super highs, but then it's like a double.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy. What do you call that when one thing pushes the other thing? Like the dual effect, whatever the word is.
Yeah, so that's what happened next.
Synergy.
The synergy. Yeah, I'm trying to think. So I think where we can go from there is, and this is what most of my videos end up being about that people watch.
You get a place with a spare bedroom.
I had a place the whole time with a spare bedroom, but my buddy from Jacksonville moved out. So I have this infamous spare bedroom now. And
the reason that it's so good is because it sounds so innocuous. The word spare bedroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But so, oh wait, we need to rewind to one other thing first. So my buddy took me to the strip club shortly before this, and I end up like seeing the most beautiful like stripper I've ever seen there. And I try to buy her a drink. But she's like, I can't have a drink. I was like, what are you talking about? She like pulls down her sock and she has an ankle monitor on, like she's wearing like thigh-high socks to like cover her ankle monitor. I was like, oh shit. And I was like, can I get a dance? She's like, I'm actually like hungry. Do you want to go out to eat? And I think she knew I owned the club at the time or something. So I figured she liked me for money or whatever.
Did she dance in your club?
No.
Okay.
No. She worked at a strip club in Austin. But yeah, so we go to eat at 24 Hour Diner. Then I tried to get her to spend the night. She's like, I have a boyfriend. I got to like get some stuff out of my apartment real quick. So I'm like standing outside the door. She's getting her shit out of her and her boyfriend's apartment. Then she comes over, we hook up, and another manic side effect, I fall in love with this girl too. And she breaks up with her boyfriend. And like shortly after, she moves in with me. So it's me and the stripper that are living together now. And then
why'd she have the ankle monitor?
She had 2 DUIs in a 3-month time frame. The funnier one was she was in a limo with her friends and got like super fucked up. So when the limo driver got out, she jumped in the driver's seat and drove the limo like over a curb and got like her second. The first one was like a regular DUI.
How soon after do you think she was bipolar too?
No, I think she just was an addict for sure.
Right. Okay. So how soon after meeting you does she decide she's going to leave her boyfriend?
Maybe I'd say a month after, but we're hooking up like that whole time.
And doing tons of coke?
Yeah. So we probably dated a month and then she moves in with me to my regular bedroom. This girl I really loved. We ended up dating for 4 years. So like I legit loved this girl. But that's why in my videos I say always say she has a heart of gold because she really did. But after that is when the spare bedroom shit started, because I had a dealer, I had a coke dealer with a regular name, but I got traded dealers. Maybe you can explain. Have you ever been like traded to a different, like, is that a sign that you're buying so much that they move you up into the big, like, what does that even mean?
I can only tell you what I think it means, because I don't know what anything means. Okay. I think is what happens is you have more money than he can handle.
Okay.
He doesn't have enough product.
Okay.
And you're always going to take everything from him.
Okay.
And because you're buying so much, you should get a better deal. And he can make more money selling his bullshit to people who are going to buy less and spend more money on the less.
That's a good theory. The only other theory I could think of is maybe the spare bedroom was a plot already. So I'm not gonna say the first dealer's name, but the second dealer, he went by another name also, which I'm not gonna say. But we both loved Sarak, right? So when I meet him, we partied together. He's the coolest drug dealer I've ever had because he partied with me, and we partied all day. And then he spends the night at my house in my spare bedroom. Then the next morning we go get Sarak from across the street. I loved Sarak. I was like more of a pineapple and peach Sarak guy. But he's like, dude, you got to try apple Sarak. So he brings that out. He pours us each a glass. He's like, this is why they call me Sarak Poppy. I died. I was like, people call you Sarak Poppy. He's like, yeah. So my dealer's name was Sarak Poppy. And he basically stayed with me after that and moved into my spare bedroom.
What was his real first name?
I can't say that.
You can't say his real first name?
I don't want to.
So let's say his name was
a normal
let's say his
name.
name was Jim.
Yeah.
Did you call him Jim until he told you that?
Yeah,
And then from that day moment, you'd call him Sarak Poppy?
I sometimes called him by his other name, but I loved that name was just so ridiculous that I was like, I fucking love this name. So he moves into my spare bedroom. My girlfriend is like not happy about this, obviously, because no girlfriend wants your dealer living in your spare bedroom.
Although she's an addict.
But she was still mad about it because I'm sure she thought I could just buy it. But this dude was he's not a punctual guy anyway. So if I can walk a few feet and I was supposed to be getting a discount, but I don't even know if I really got a discount from this guy or not.
Once he moved in?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be getting a hell of a discount once he moves in.
I'm sure but I wasn't. Honestly, my money was monopoly money at that point. I wasn't keeping track of it at all.
When he moves in, is your addiction like off the charts?
Blew up. I think he lived with me 2 months. And that's when I was like going through like an 8-ball a day. But like I would share it too, but I was buying like an 8-ball a day at that point.
Were you just sniffing it?
Yeah. I've never shut up.
Or smoked it?
Never. I mean, I he was not the best dealer, I guess, because we tried to make crack. I don't know.
He was incapable of making. Sarak Poppy was a not well-versed crack producer. No. He was an untalented crack producer.
He was an amateur crack producer.
He was like, he did not have the rock in Sarak. It was not part of his business.
No.
I told you, I mean, you heard the story where I had my heroin dealer move in to my apartment, Tony Baloney.
Yes.
But nobody called him Tony Baloney.
No.
His name was Mike. I wonder what happened to him. I think about him all the time. It was his voicemail where you called him, it would say, "You have reached Tony Baloney." And then I was
dying laughing when you told that story.
I moved him into a studio apartment right down the street from here with his girlfriend.
Oh my gosh.
And the two of them lived with me, I want to just say a week. That was all we could handle of it.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money.
Right.
Because you can't have a drug dealer staying at your house and you don't have money.
Right.
That's the worst.
Exactly. That's the only way this could have happened is I still had all that money, basically. Right. So yeah, so he lived with me for a little while, and that obviously turned into my decline, basically. I'm trying to think where to go next.
Where does the decline start to show itself? And when does the stripper with the heart of gold leave? Like what starts to happen once Sarak Poppy is in the spare bedroom?
Yeah, and we'll do a shout out to Felicia, the stripper with the heart of gold.
And Sarak Poppy.
And Sarak. We don't know where. I know where Felicia is, but I have no idea where Sarak Poppy is.
It reminds me of. Do you ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I have. Yeah.
Where Larry moves Leon into the guest house.
haven't seen that
Leon
one.
Black, JB. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But Sarak Poppy is your Leon in the house. Did you guys become very close?
We're like best friends.
Right.
So, and you'll understand this as an addict. I had my more normal friends that also did drugs, but I started losing, or they just couldn't hang anymore.
Right.
Because like it was fun at first, but then it was just madness. I was getting banned from all the bars because of various reasons, getting caught doing coke mostly. I did these ridiculous dances, sometimes involving push-ups, and I would like kick people's drinks. Like I'd had so much energy on coke, so I'd like kick drinks. I was just like a menace, basically. My nickname back then was Doomsday because like of all the wreckage I left in my wake, I guess. So it wasn't a cool Sarak name.
What kind of wreckage did you leave in the wake?
Just getting banned from bars, and just getting in trouble like everywhere, basically, was mainly what like I was banned from, I don't know, like at least 7 bars probably in Austin.
Was it mostly just from kicking over drinks, or are there any good stories that we're missing here?
The very first night I was in Austin, there was a fight that I wasn't involved in, but I got like I didn't get to throw any punches, but I was involved in the fight. So I guess I told you about the confidence with the coke. So the first night I'm out, I guess I'm talking to the wrong girl, and I get punched by one guy. Like these 3 guys took turns punching me, basically 1 punch each. I'm like reeling after the second punch. The third punch knocks me on our bottles on our table and like fucks up my back a little bit. My best friend is like a ex-Army Ranger though, and I've seen him do this several times. But he got the third guy and like choked him out in a headlock. And I've seen him choke out several people. Like he always told me, he's like, I'm not gonna punch anyone because I could get in trouble. But if you choke someone out, like you're not leaving marks on them, or I don't know. It was just
that was his technique.
That's his technique. He would just get behind someone and choke them out. So yeah, he choked someone out. I did get in one fight where I punched a dude and like gave him a bloody nose. So I got kicked out of that bar. I threatened a bouncer with a metal napkin holder. I don't know if you've seen these, like they're like these big metal napkin holders with like round sides, but I stole it from a bar and like took it to another bar and threatened to kill a guy with it because he was like messing with my girlfriend or whatever. So I got banned from that bar. So it's just a bunch of ridiculous stuff like
nightlife foibles, yes. Mistakes. And what kind of stuff are you and Sarak Poppy getting yourself into?
Mainly partying. We were at the strip club a lot that my girlfriend worked at. Then, oh yeah, I should tell the part about the Sarak boys, I guess, is a good word. So he introduces me to this bouncer. I can say the bouncer's name, Shelby. And like, so we started meeting these younger kids who like kind of looked up to our partying ways because we're both in our 30s. So I'm manic. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to like teach these guys the ways of partying. And Shelby didn't have a place to live. So I put Shelby on my couch.
The bouncer.
Yeah, he's like this small little bowling ball looking bouncer. He's really buff though. I called him a bowling ball. But yeah, he would like sleep on my couch. So we had him in there first. He was like the first Sarak boy, I guess. It's not like we called them Sarak boys all the time. It was just like a joking thing that these
You developed this little crew,
yes.
This little mafia in your apartment.
Because, well, Sarak Poppy hired these 2 kids to hit a lick, and they got caught.
Wait, what is hitting a lick?
Like steal stuff. I didn't know this either. I learned the lingo from him.
He's a Texan?
He's Mexican, dude.
So
that lives in Texas.
What's hitting a lick?
It's like robbing someone, basically.
Okay.
Maybe they don't. Did they not say that here?
I've never heard anyone say it, but that doesn't mean anything. I could have just missed it.
Well, the Sarak Poppy hired these kids to like steal, like rob these people, and they got caught on camera or something. So he's like, they can't go home. Like they're gonna have like consequences or whatever. And so we had these other 2. Like I had this huge couch though, like a huge like sectional couch. So like they're sleeping either on the couch or on the floor on an air mattress. So now we have 3 like Sarak boys basically staying at my house, and plus Sarak Poppy in the guest bedroom. He got a girlfriend at that time, so it was
plus Felicia.
So it's Sarak Poppy and this other girl in the bedroom, these 3 younger kids, and then me and Felicia.
Yeah, I could see why
Felicia in a 2-bedroom.
I could see why Felicia wasn't so into that situation.
No, she was not.
So what happens?
Let's see where to go with that. Yeah, so after that,
when do things start to show themselves to you as a problem?
Yeah, dude, I didn't know I was running out of money, but like I was okay, so and besides buying the club, I gave this guy a $60,000 loan. He like owned a solar company, and he was like, he offered me this ridiculous interest rate. So I was like, all right, I can make some extra money off this 60K, whatever. Then the company goes under, and he's not paying me anymore. And through all my partying, like I was getting VIP bottle service all the time, and like that's thousands of dollars sometimes if you're stupid like I was. So all of a sudden, it all like crashed around me. I guess it all happened at the same time as the Sarak Poppy sucker punch. So we got in a fight, and he flew out of the bedroom.
You and Sarak Poppy?
We had a falling out
Why?
because I was banging on his door because. Okay, so I'm jumping around a little bit. So I bought the other owner out of the club because he hated me. So he let me buy him out. So then I owned the whole club.
Were you very hateable at this point?
I actually kind of was. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Some people like.
I mean, Sarak Poppy turning on you, your partner. It sounds like a lot of things are going wrong.
Like only addicts were hanging out with me mostly at this point. I was like a menace.
But also, you probably liked having your world, your money. Everything is on your terms. Your dealer is in house. The henchmen are in house. The stripper is in house. The club is like your personal playground. It's this weird situation where you are the king of all you survey, and that fucks people up.
Yeah. So I mean, it worked good. Like. But yeah, all the normal people weren't hanging out with me at that point. But so all my regular employees quit the club because they're like, fuck this guy, he's the worst. So, and they all quit without telling me. So I was like, Sarak Poppy, do you want to be the manager tonight? And I had him like, this is back when they actually had cash more. We're in 2016 now. So like, I got home and I felt like this. My dealer, I think, robbed me. I don't have as much cash as I should.
You think he just took money from you?
Oh, I definitely think so, yeah.
Where did you keep the money?
No, I think he kept the money he collected, like some of the money from the club that night.
Oh.
So I was banging on the door. He's in there with the girl he's like kind of dating or whatever. And he's like, shut the fuck up. We're trying to sleep or whatever. I keep banging on the door. I was like, where's my money? And he finally swings the door open and like sucker punches me, and he's about to hit me like for the third time, and Sarak boy Shelby like jumps back and holds him back, and I don't know. I kicked everyone out at that point because
that was the end of this.
Yeah, I was like, fuck this. Like you guys, all you Sarak people have to leave.
Well, you felt scared because you were like, holy shit, these people. This is not what I want anymore.
Right. And then Felicia, that's her stripper name. I don't know if she wants me to say her real name, so I'll just say that. But she ended up going to jail right around that time too. So I ended up by myself because
for what?
She had the ankle monitor, but I guess she drank. I don't know if she was at the club or afterwards, but she registered alcohol and had to go to jail.
It's amazing that the ankle monitors can't detect drugs.
Oh, she instead of drinking, most of the time she had a bottle of GHB that she always carried with her in like a 5-hour energy. And I don't know if you've ever tried that. I hate it, but she
GHB?
liked it.
I never tried it.
I mean, it is like she was date rape drugging herself, basically.
Everyone says it's incredible.
It made me act really stupid and laugh a lot. Like I liked,
but that sounds like a good deal.
But I had I couldn't pick up chicks when I was on it. Like I had no game at all. Like I just sat there and laughed, that is fun, I guess. But I was like, I'm just gonna drink. I don't need GHB, and I didn't want to take too much and black out. But she was like doing that with Xanax sometimes. She was using a lot.
So you kick everybody out of the place.
And then right around that time, shortly after, I checked my bank account because now I'm finally by myself. And because I was like trying to buy shit and my bank account was pretty much gone. I still had some 401k money, but I blew through like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And you didn't even realize it.
No, not really.
And
no.
You're not making anything out of the club then. You're just losing.
I was making money at the start, but when I fired all the other, I wasn't, at this point, I was no longer making money because people were stealing from me.
You couldn't run the club. The other guy.
I was hiring
Sarak
dealers.
Poppy to manage the club.
Yeah. It's really stupid. So then, though, it doesn't end there because I still have my 401k. So I descend even lower. Well, that was the day it really started to hit me, though, because well, not that day, but right near then, I had to walk to Wendy's. Oh, I didn't tell you that. My car was also stolen the car was stolen later. Okay, but at that point I had to walk to Wendy's across the street and buy stuff off the dollar menu because I was like, shit, I like barely have any money left. I was like, I got to get a loan on my 401k and start using that. So then instead of Sarak Poppy, I meet this new crew of people, T-Rex, Bird and Edgar, and then Old Girl.
Yes, Old Girl.
Old Girl. So Old Girl, the T-Rex is like this skinny, hilarious black dude, and I kept losing my keys when I lived at the condo.
Was he a drug dealer?
No.
What was his deal?
Maybe he dealt a little on the side, but he had a warrant for his arrest for fraud, like counterfeit money.
But what made you, like, how did he wind up hanging out with you?
Okay, because no one worked at my club again. So I showed up there and I didn't have any workers. So there's these two guys. There's these two guys standing outside the door.
But there are people going to the club.
People were about to I was like, fuck, I can't even run my club. So these two guys are outside, Preston and Anthony, these normal name guys. And I was like, hey, like, I don't have anyone working. We didn't need a lot of workers. It's a 300-person club. It's a small club.
You need somebody.
But I needed like 3 or 4 people at least, right, to like do stuff. So I'm like, hey, I'll pay you guys. Like, they were going to be customers. They were lining up to go to my club. I just picked the first 2 people.
You're like, can you work tonight?
Yeah, I was like, I'll pay you $150, something like that to help me. And I was like, have you ever worked? They're like, we worked at a bar. I was like, okay. So I get those 2, and they're like, hey, I can call a couple people. They called T-Rex, and they called T-Rex and Bones. There's a skinny white dude named Bones. So it was T-Rex, Bones, Preston, and Anthony that were working at my club that night. And then afterwards, I just brought them back to my condo, and we just kept partying. And T-Rex found out that I kept losing my keys I was losing everything I'm sure when you're blacked out, you lost. Yeah. So I'd asked my landlord for several keys, and he was like threatening to evict me. So T-Rex is like, hey, I know this chick called Old Girl, not Old Girl. He's like
no D, OLGIRL.
This Old Girl, yeah, a black chick named Old Girl. She was in her 20s, also. She wasn't like old, but he's like, she could watch your house when you're gone in exchange for doing tricks in the spare bedroom. I was like, what is that? And he's like, she's like a hooker, basically. And I was like, he's like, oh, these are like customers that she's had for a while. Like, you can trust them, whatever. So yeah, I'm like, all right, Old Girl can move in my spare bedroom and like watch the place for me. So I replaced Sarak Poppy with Old Girl.
How was Old Girl as a tenant?
Dude, she was like the quietest, like nicest little chick. Apparently, I actually felt bad for her because her man was in prison for something, and she just was like, I need to like make some money to like keep myself going or whatever.
I remember in that same period where Tony Baloney stayed at my apartment for a few weeks, there was a woman who got introduced to me. They told me she was, you know who Renee Russo is? She was a famous actress.
Yes.
They told me that this woman was Renee Russo, but she didn't want to admit she was Renee Russo, but she needed a place to stay. What? And she came to my apartment and to stay there. And it wasn't like there was a spare bedroom either. It was one room.
Okay.
I think she slept in the bed with me. And I don't think anything happened. I don't think. And I don't think it was Renee Russo either. But my point is, I think I was very lonely.
Yeah.
And like anybody that would come and stay, that kind of created more chaos and had company. I was like, okay. Do you think in that period you were lonely?
Yeah. And I kept
and Felicia was in jail.
Yeah. And I couldn't. And she got out after that, but she was mad at me because I didn't have the money to bail her out. So one of her strip club...
And you were doing coke instead of bailing her out.
Yeah. So one of her strip club patrons bailed her out, like some rich strip club patron bailed her out, and she did not come back to my house at that point. We were on the outs. So now I'm hanging with this crew. They're not like living... They stay the night sometimes. They weren't like live like Sarak
Old girl
Poppy.
was not a
No,
live-in.
old girl lived with me. But the other
I picture her
dudes-
with like a rocking chair, crocheting when she's not fucking. No,
she's like in her 20s.
what is she doing
right now?
No. Well, sure. What is she
I don't
doing
know
right
what
now?
I have no idea what she's doing
But
now.
like, what were her hobbies? Like, if
Like
she was
watching TV
she was just
and
hanging out
playing
watching
around on her
what would she
phone.
watch?
She was actually watching movies with me. Like me and old girl. I've never hooked up with old girl. Like I didn't want to, but we would just sit there and watch TV together.
Did you call her old girl?
Yeah, I don't know what her real name was.
What would she call you?
I mean, she didn't call me Doomsday. She called me David.
It's very sweet. It's like The Odd Couple.
But no, we never hooked up though. None of that. But this is when I'm just because so like your friend circle like is slowly descending lower and lower. This is
Disintegrating.
yes. And then I met Methhead David. Well, I met Methhead David through Sarak Poppy, but Methhead David came back into my life and he was sometimes staying at my condo. But he pretended he was like a high-powered lawyer and his brother was a lawyer. So like he knew all the right stuff to say and I was an idiot, manic and drugs. So I was like, oh, this cool lawyer is hanging out with me. But he was always borrowing my shirts. And I was like, what? Why is this lawyer? He must like my fit. I don't know why this guy's always wearing my clothes.
And
he
and that's Methhead David?
Methhead David.
Not Attorney David?
No, it's Methhead David.
Did you do a bunch of meth with him or no?
I tried meth once later, but not with him. No. And I can tell you that story later. But yeah, so Methhead David's always hanging out there. He was jacked too, because he's doing meth and push-ups like all the time. That was his thing.
It's like chocolate and peanut butter.
Yeah. but then so these people are all living with me. My club is like totally going downhill. No liquor lockers anymore, no rich people. It's just a bunch of gangster, like thug type people.
It's
like
becoming like a drug addict spot.
basically it was starting to be known as this is where those people hang out. So I'm not making money. It's just a bunch of people doing drugs and hanging out in what was supposed to be like a nice club. But then the cops, I think all the other bar owners hated me. So they were like trying to get TABC, that's like the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, to bust me. So people were going in there, like cops were trying to buy alcohol, which if we sold it to them, we'd get in trouble. People would be like, hey, I'll pay $100 for a drink, trying to trick the workers and stuff. But then the ending was the club actually got raided by the cops.
Why?
There was Preston, the first guy I told you about that was working at the club. I fired him because he shot up heroin on my couch and didn't show up to work. Not surprising. He was my manager at that time.
Yes.
So
was that your first firing?
Yeah, I guess that was. I wasn't really. It's
Preston
hard to
crossed the line when he shot up on the couch and didn't come to
couldn't
work.
wake him up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So after Preston, honestly, I don't know if this happened or not, but his like girlfriend went in there and like called the cops and claimed that multiple people had assaulted her. Someone had like done something to her in a broom closet or something, like, and maybe that happened. I don't know, but the cops raided my club, and it's just weird that it was his ex-girlfriend, but I don't know. It definitely could have happened. But so there's like a back entrance to the vault. So I had a bunch of drugs on me. So I'm back with Felicia at this time again. Me and her and some other people run out the back door and run home because I had all these like drugs on me. But then Methhead David was actually my manager of the club after Preston. So I'm hiring the worst people that run my club. But he called.
Well, it's interesting also though, because you're only doing coke.
Yeah.
Sarak Poppy, you hire him, he's a source of coke, and then he robs you. You got to get rid of him, punches you, whatever.
Yeah.
But Methhead David, you're not smoking meth, and you're not shooting heroin with Preston.
No, never.
So it's like those guys don't seem that valuable as club managers to me.
But no one else would hang out with me. So,
It's a great motley crew for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Out of all of them, who do you think you were closest with?
Sarak Poppy.
Yeah, and do you ever miss him?
I honestly would love, if he was doing better, I would love to hang out with him again. Like we were like legit. It's the only dealer I've ever had that was like, he legit was my best friend for like 2 months.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. I had a dealer named Indio who would come to my apartment every day and hang out with me, and we'd watch TV and we would eat and we'd shoot heroin, or I would shoot heroin. I don't think he would. I think he needed the money. Mm-hmm. And I didn't at the time. And then I connected one of my best friends with him, and I got sober. And my best friend started hanging out with Indio at a single residence occupancy,
Okay.
like one of these like welfare hotels.
Yeah,
and my
yeah.
friend would go to his house and watch like Maury Povich with him all day. I mean, but that's one of the best and worst aspects of drug addiction is on the horrible side. You're hanging out with people that you probably wouldn't have been if you weren't
Right.
addicted to drugs. But on the beautiful side, it's that love finds a way no matter what, and that these connections happen. And like you can look back at it and be like, well, that was weird, but he was my best friend at the time because he was your friend.
Yeah, because none of my other friends would hang out with me. So I was like, this is my and he used his own stuff. Like Sarak Poppy could keep up with me compared to like all the other people. Like that guy could match me stride for stride. And it's probably like, this is great. He's probably, this is great for me. I'm getting paid to party with this stupid idiot guy. So
totally. So all the fucking Methhead Davids and Prestons and everybody's failing, and you have to be close to out of money considering you're just eating at the dollar menu at Wendy's.
Well, I got some money from the 401k, but I blew through that too. And so this is basically right around when I ran out of money completely. And that night, Methhead David also stole my car. So I had no car.
Fucking Methhead David. He's no Sarak Poppy.
No. So I had no car. Shortly after that,
Did he ever come back?
I got my car. Oh, I could do the redemption arc of Sarak Poppy. So Sarak Poppy honestly knew about, I think he was somewhat in on this with Methhead David because he knew where my car was. But he had a change of heart because Methhead David was apparently going to get my car chopped up for parts. I didn't even have I had a club, but I had like a Infiniti G37. I didn't have a crazy car or anything. So he was going to chop it up for parts. And Sarak Poppy like told me he could get my car back for me. So
were you still hanging out with him here and there?
No.
Or he just felt bad?
He just felt bad, I think. So he had a heart. He's a dealer with a heart. Method David had no heart.
Heartless David.
He's a narcissist. But Sarak Poppy took me to where Method David was at a bar. And when Sarak Poppy showed up with me, Method David punched him in the neck. And then like their other friend like separated them, and Sarak Poppy's like, you got to give this guy his car back. I don't know who would have won that fight. I actually think Method David might. Well, Sarak Poppy like street fought as a teenager, but Method David was so jacked and on meth. Like that would have been an amazing fight. You wish you
could have.
That would have been the best fight I could have ever watched.
That's going to be the next phase of your career is making crazy street fight videos with the characters of your life. Today we have heroin addict Preston against the Sarak bowling ball guy, fucking Shelby. So between Shelby, fucking Methhead David, and Sarak Poppy, who wins?
I would say, this is why I go with Method David. Sarak Poppy was always on fentanyl patches and opioids. Yeah. He liked opioids a lot. So maybe Sarak Poppy at full strength without the opioids had a chance. But dude, Method David was insane. He put a guy in his trunk at knife point one time. Like,
but you said Shelby was a bouncer, muscle.
But he was probably like 5'6".
So Method David is the psycho.
I think he had the reach.
So fucking, it's very fortunate that Method David's friend let Sarak Poppy get your car back.
Yeah.
That didn't have to go down like that.
No. And even then I was scared because like, so Method David's like, we walked around for like 20 minutes. Either he was fucked up or he just was like trying to think of a plan to not. We're like there's this big it's the Domain in Austin, so it's a huge outdoor mall with a parking lot, and he's like, we're walking around 20 minutes looking for my car, which I don't know if he knew where it was or not, but I was starting to get like worried. I was like, is this dude like, what's he gonna do, you know? Because it's just me and him walking around. Sarak Poppy and the other guys are like waiting for us, but finally he takes me to my car, and I see all these
shirts of mine in the back seat. I'm like, oh, there's my shirts. So he infamously loved to wear your shirts.
Yeah. So he gives me my keys back, but then he like grabs all my shirts and takes off running. So I think in his mind, he's like, oh, I at least got one up on this guy. I took all his shirts, and I didn't give a shit at that point. I was like, I got my car back. He would kick my ass anyway. I can't chase him down.
And that was the end of Methhead David?
That was the last time I saw him. He messaged me threatening me to punch my teeth in a few times after that. And he was
Why?
I was talking bad about him on the street, he said, or whatever. And then he hit T-Rex up to try to help. He was like, hey, let's steal his car again. But T-Rex told me, he's like, T-Rex was actually cared about me. So he's like, Method David's trying to steal your car again. Like, don't, he asked me to help him, but I said no or whatever.
Did Methhead David know that everyone called him Methhead David?
No.
Okay. They just called him David.
I just called him David when I was with him. I called him that when he wasn't around.
T-Rex.
Everyone called T-Rex T-Rex.
Everyone called Sarak Poppy.
Some people called him by his real name too.
Okay.
Sarak Poppy was a mix. No one called Method David to his face.
Right.
But T-Rex is, everyone called T-Rex T-Rex. Everyone called Bones.
They all call me Dopey Dave behind my back, but because they know I don't like it. But they all do it behind me. They do, and I don't like it. They do it behind my back.
That's not that bad, though.
It isn't. I have to get over it. Okay. So you're fucking bleeding money. How do you lose the club?
I just couldn't service the rent anymore.
And you're just like, that's it? And that's it?
Yeah.
You just walk away from it?
Yeah.
And then somebody else takes it?
Actually, someone tried to reopen it. It's funny, right now it's abandoned. Like it's in Austin. Like you've probably, have you been out, not partied, but you've probably been off like 5th Street, downtown Austin.
It was a million years ago.
Yes, it was like right near downtown. Actually, right now it's not even being used. I walk by and reminisce sometimes, but it's not even. It was like an underground 305 person like after hours club. But yeah, it's closed right now.
It was the glory days.
The people that are like my age that used to party still, like when they see me, they're like, dude, do you remember I was like, yeah, I own, like, of course I remember it. They're like, oh, those were the best times.
You're like, still, yeah, I was strung out and everything got stolen. And
yeah.
So what was the worst thing that you think happened to you? Oh, and what became of old girl in that whole situation?
Well, she ended, after all them people, after all those people, I don't remember why she, I think that I'm trying to remember why she left. I didn't have any more money for anyone else anymore. Because at this point, I moved, that's what happened. I moved Felicia back in. And then no one, she's like, you can't have these crazy people here anymore. So I don't remember if I just asked her to leave or what, but everyone leaves at that point. It's me and Felicia. And then we wake up one morning and we're like super hot. The air conditioning got cut off because I didn't pay my electric bill. Shortly after that, I got like an eviction notice on my door. And we ended up having to leave our apartment. And that's when I went from like having all that money to, I call it basically homeless, but she was working at the strip club, so we were staying at like these cheap motels, like
because she can make enough money in a shift to pay for a room or something.
Dude, the crazy thing is she used to make a ton of money, but she was using a lot with me and not like she wasn't taking care of herself as much and just not in a good place. So she wasn't making near as much. So it wasn't like she was making hundreds of dollars a night when I met her, even over 1,000 a lot of times. But now some nights she was like barely making it. So we had to stay in like these really cheap hotels for a couple months.
And you're still doing coke every night though?
No, I couldn't afford. At this point, I couldn't. This is when I went into my bad addict phase without the money addict phase. So I was stealing like Four Locos from gas stations. I remember stealing deodorant one time. Like that's how low I fell from all that money. So I'm like stealing shit. Sarak Poppy won't like hang out with, he won't sell me coke because I couldn't buy enough. So T-Rex had told me about this, under this overpass in Austin, I could buy like $10 and $20 like I guess dime bags and shit. So I was going under there and buying these tiny coke bags. That's all I could afford at that time.
And it probably barely touched you though.
Yeah, it didn't do much for me. But that did help me kind of come out of the addiction because I couldn't afford anymore. And I wasn't like a crazy thief. I was just stealing the gas station stuff.
So what did you do?
Well, this is an interest. So,
where was the felony? Oh, the felony. Where did you get the felony from? The compound sales?
I didn't have it yet. This is still when everything was under investigation. So they didn't charge me till 4.5 years after the FBI raided my office. We'll go into the end of it, but this case dragged on for 9.5 years. It's the longest case my lawyer's ever seen. So my whole 30s, basically, this case went on. So, but right now I'm not even thinking about that because I'm home. So That's how low I am. I'm homeless with a 7-year sentence potentially hanging over my head. I was like in a shit situation. So we're living out of these hotels. But then Felicia remembers that she had like a boob job, and she had like a couple $1,000s in money that the doctor still owed her. Like, that's how fucked up we were. We should have known this right away. We probably didn't even need to stay in the hotels. So she gets this back, and we get this like tiny studio apartment. And that's really when things kind of really went into perspective for me, because we had no furniture. We bought an air mattress from Target, and then like peanut butter and jelly, meat and cheese, and that's like all we had moving into our apartment.
And what happens?
Well, from there, I was trying to get a job, but I'm depressed again. I bombed like 20 or more job interviews, basically. The one job I got, I will tell you about that, because it's the one time I did meth. I got a job. But I tried to tell this story on TikTok, but they keep banning it. Like, I told it twice, and they like, so I'm going to tell it here because it gets cut off.
It won't get banned here.
It's not even that bad, but the 2 times I posted, I got I don't know, TikTok hit me up like, you can't post this video. So it starts out with Felicia had her birthday coming up, and I didn't have enough money to buy her anything. So her strip club patron, this wealthy Indian dude, is like, hey, I want to pay for your girls' trip to Dallas. And he books a hotel like at the W there and all this stuff. But she doesn't tell him she's bringing me instead. So I show up there, and there's like a bouquet of roses from him and like this card professing his love. And I'm like staying in this hotel. That's probably the smallest as a man I've like ever felt, was like staying in this other dude's room with flowers in there and shit. But
but it was your girlfriend.
Yeah.
She was a strip club patron.
But I felt like so low, dude. Like, going from having all that money to like,
sure.
I just felt terrible as a man. But on the way home, we were using his money because he had given her some cash too. And we wanted Coke, wanted to score some Coke. So she's like, hey, I know this dude on the way home. This like when I met him, I was like, I did not like him. He's like this squirrely, weird dude. But he didn't have Coke. He had meth only. And I knew Methhead David. I was like, I don't want to be like that guy. But I wanted to pick me up. And we had all this cash. So I was like, me and her were like, okay, we'll try this. And when I smoked it, and I didn't feel anything at first, so I kept smoking more, and then I felt like this like huge like rush of energy. I was like, I like this stuff. So I didn't have anything to smoke it with, but I was like, I'll just buy some and snort it, just like I do blow. I'd never snorted it before. So yeah, we went on a 3-day bender after that. Her and I just like crazy sex we like had sex in a strip club, not her strip club, like in a different strip club. We were trying to like hook up with the girl that worked there. She wouldn't do it. So we just went in the back ourselves and like hooked up there. It was, I understand why people like meth. But it's, dude, when you see what people look like, I think that's what scared me from ever doing it again, is like watching Breaking Bad, seeing meth face, meth teeth and all that.
Yeah, I mean, meth always made me feel not good, but Coke never made me feel good either. It's all brain chemistry stuff, and It sounds like you had a decent experience on the meth, though, but not good enough to keep you on it.
No, because in my mind I was like, I'm doing this once, but then she told me on the 3rd day, she's like, you have a job interview today, don't you? And I hadn't slept at all. I was like, oh shit, I do. But I had like the supreme meth kind of made me feel the same with the confidence. So I was like, I'm going to crush this job interview, because I wasn't depressed anymore. I don't remember what I said, but I crushed the job interview, got the job on meth, but then I didn't do any more after the 3rd day. So I lost the job 3 days, like 3 days in, because I was depressed again. And like, I was not who they hired at all. I had no confidence. I was falling asleep in training. Job? Dude, it was at the Professional Gold Bureau. I was going to be selling gold to people over the phone.
Well, it sounds like you have a definite knack for selling on the phone.
I mean, I've done it a lot. Yeah. I've always done sales of some sort. But yeah, they fired me 3 days in. So I was back to depression, back to all that. But
you're still getting Seroquel prescribed the whole time?
I had stopped taking it at this time. But this is when I went back to the psychiatrist. And this is when I finally got diagnosed, not diagnosed, but I finally got on the right meds with that doctor. This is about 7-ish years ago. So he put me back on the Seroquel and he put me on Lamictal, which is a mood stabilizer. And that I'd never done that drug before. Those two together were like the perfect combo for me. And within like less than a month, I was completely stable. Well, close to completely stable. And that's why my like addiction story is different than other people, because I think mine with the bipolar is very related, because I was able to stop doing coke pretty much as I became stable.
Well, what's the pretty much in pretty much?
I messed up a couple of times here and there, but for the most part, I was able to finally get another job in finance, and I kind of made this big, I call it like a line in the sand decision. I was like, I got a good job again. I'm feeling stable, the best I've felt in years. I finally felt like a normal person. I hadn't felt like a normal person, since I was like 20.
Well, the thing that I'm thinking is, first of all, do you identify as an addict?
I do identify as a coke addict, because if I'm around it, I'm still tempted. And I messed up a couple times, and both were like bad because I hadn't done it in so long. The one time I lost my Apple Watch and punched a hole in my closet door. And then the last time I did coke, I was in Miami, and I'm just not around it anymore. I purposely changed. I think the biggest thing for me is changing my environment. Like I delete all the numbers of the dealers. I don't hang out with people that do drugs at all anymore. But I was in Miami, this big coke plate around me, and I did it, blacked out, woke up on a sidewalk outside club space with puke all over myself and a sprained knee, and had to like I don't know how I got from Fort Lauderdale to Miami, but I had to like take $100-something cab back. That's the last time I did coke, and I was like,
when was that?
Oh man, that was honestly just a couple of years ago.
My thinking or my question is this: it's like when you didn't necessarily have interests until you fell in love with partying,
right?
And then you became so obsessed with partying and what the lifestyle could give you,
right?
And then you bottomed out in the lifestyle.
Right.
So it's like, where did your interest go? Like, were you just so excited to have normalcy?
Yeah, just because it's hard to explain, but the chaos of bipolar, the mania, I was over all of the party, like the hard partying at that point. I think I had to hit rock bottom, which after losing everything, living in the hotel, having just an air mattress, when you go through something like that, at least that was the catalyst for me, that I was like, that I really wanted to change. I think I got around everything until then. Like I always seemed to like never get in much trouble.
Right, navigate it.
Yeah, I always figured out a way to navigate. This was something I couldn't navigate. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I had to hit. So I've never been to treatment like a lot of people. I've never been to AA. I think most people need to go to that. But with my addiction, I think it was tied mostly to bipolar. But the coke, like I said, I when I'm around it, I still, yeah, if I was around it, drinking, if I was sober, it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal. But if I was drinking,
right.
So my sobriety, I'll just talk about my sobriety. It looks different than other people's. I don't do any drugs besides my prescriptions, but I still drink occasionally.
How often?
I mean, I could probably drink a couple times a week, but I can totally drink one drink and be fine, because like that, the excessive drinking was only with the bipolar. I can have one drink and stop, like no problem. But the coke, I can't. I can't just do one line of coke. I will do it all night if I do it.
And because I mean, like in recovery, people talk about this psychic change, and I think you had a psychic change. Like you went through the mill and you were as far gone as, anybody, yes, really.
Yeah.
But you never went to AA. You don't identify as an alcoholic. You can drink casually. Do you ever find yourself in a situation drinking where you're like near the edge, or you feel like you're losing control or anything like that?
Not really, no. No, I would say no.
And when did you start Bipolar Guy Loving Life?
Okay, I started about a year ago. I guess I can tell you real quick what kind of led up to that, because I should probably go into that. So all this time, the sentencing shit is like hanging over my head, right? I get the finance job. This will go right into that question. I get the finance job, and I worked there 5 years because they hired me before the felony hit my record. But then in 2019, I think is when I pled guilty to the felonies. It's like conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud is the main one. And I should have told my work about this. Like there's a lot of things I feel bad about now, but like I didn't tell them because I was like, fuck, if I'm not gonna be able to get another job with the felony very easily. So it was hard. Every day at work, I was like, are they going to find out? Are they going to so I was living a lie kind of for years, and I didn't realize the toll it was taking on me. But after 5 years, they ran they called it a routine background check, which I don't know why they didn't run it before that. They found out about it. They fired me. And then I decided I was on probation at this time, but it was the weirdest probation I've ever heard of. It was my officer was in Florida, in Jacksonville. I was in Austin, and they would only hit me up once a year to like see what I was doing. So I decided while I was on probation to go to Asia. My lawyer says like one of the ballsiest things he's ever seen anyone. But this is 8 years into my waiting. So I was
Where'd
like, fuck this. I bought a one-way ticket to Vietnam. I didn't even know where I was going to go. Like I bought a 2-night hotel stay in the airport. And I was like, I'm just going to go to Asia and see if I like it. And I stayed there for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. I went to Vietnam for a month. I think I was in Thailand a month and a half on and on. I was in Bali in Indonesia for a month. I was in Malaysia and then the Philippines.
And you didn't do drugs there?
I did not. No.
And then so like, what has been your like guiding light? Like what do you want to do? Like
that's what that's where I was going to go with that. Because at the end of that trip in Bali, like I was, it's the whole eat, pray, love thing. So I was like, I need to figure out what to do with
what's
my
the eat,
life.
Pray, love thing.
Well, a lot of people go to Bali to find themselves. Basically, it's a lot of divorcees,
right?
And
right. I have a friend who runs retreats there.
Yes,
actually,
it's a big yoga, right. Yeah. So people go there to like figure their lives out. So I was like, I want to do that too. I'd always wanted to help people with my story, but I couldn't do that in finance. I would get fired for it. So when I was there, I'm like, what can I do? And that's when all this kind of started. I didn't know where to go with it. I was like, I think I'll try to coach people with mental health stuff, sobriety too, to a lesser degree. But I felt my area of expertise was more mental health than sobriety because I think my sobriety is a little untraditional. So I felt my real passion is more the mental health side of things.
Also, you understand bipolar and how to manage it and what an episode is actually like.
Yeah, and I was stable for 7 years. So like I think most people would say, and my doctor says I'm a very high functioning bipolar person because I've been stable so long and I can do well in life. I'm not, doing any of that stuff anymore. So I decided I want to help people, but I didn't know how. So yeah, when I got back, I started trying to coach people, wasn't really getting any clients. And then my buddy's like, you need to do social media. And I was like, I don't even know how to, and I honestly, I'm an introvert. So I was like, I didn't even want to do social media, but I think I had 30 followers on TikTok at the time. And one of my friends is like, just tell your stories and be like open and vulnerable. I was like, I should be, because I was more ashamed to tell those stories at first. But then I realized like, and part of it was, I don't want people to think I'm glorifying my mistakes.
I can relate to that.
Like it's a delicate balance because I told my friend even, I was like, what if people just think I'm bragging on here, which I'm not, because I'm telling stories about how I lost everything too. It's not bragging in any way.
I don't think that you can take a story and say that this is either bragging or not bragging. Yeah. There's other things it can be.
I think it's intent too.
Right. But I mean, like, I think that when you tell a story about owning a club and having this cavalcade of misfit characters, it's more about like, it's not to brag, it's to explain the scenario and how fucked up it is. The fact that you ran some after-hours club in Austin and had a prostitute in one room, a bouncer on the couch, and this ridiculous team, interjecting in your life. Now, obviously, Sarak Poppy is a huge favorite in your fan base. What about Old Girl?
Old Girl's up. I would put it, Sarak Poppy is number one. Felicia with the Heart of Gold. People love her stories. Then I would put Methhead David and Old Girl. I need to tell more old girl stories. I haven't told enough.
I'm a
of them.
closet Methhead David guy. I think because he's a villain. Are we missing any good Felicia stories that you feel like you should have told?
I think if we're missing a story, I need to. People like the Manic in Miami story. It's not Felicia though. This is the girl before Felicia. So I don't know if you've seen this one. I met a girl while Manic in Miami, like right before I moved to Austin, and I knew her for like 2 days, but I again fell in love with the bipolar, the drugs, the sex, whatever.
Yeah.
So she had a boyfriend and she lived in Baton Rouge with him. And I was like, hey, do you want to like move to Austin and be my girlfriend?
I thought this was Felicia.
No, this is before.
I did hear this
I'm going to, this is a different, I shouldn't say her name. She had a normal name, but I'm not going to say her name. But she moves in with me in Austin.
Straight from Florida to, she's like, come with me to Louisiana.
Well, she visited me one time. She like lied to her boyfriend and visited me for a weekend. So I think I knew her for 4 days. And she broke up with her boyfriend. I drove a U-Haul down to Baton Rouge, picked all her shit up out of her boyfriend's house. He could have like killed me, but he didn't. So I put all her shit in a U-Haul and drive her in her little Pomeranian Cujo, Stephen King, shout out. And I moved them into my house. That was right before Felicia, but she cheated on me with another guy, so she didn't last very long.
Do you think she was bipolar?
No, some people are just kind of wild, I guess. I don't know what brings someone to do that. Maybe she had her own thing.
She definitely did. Yeah. It's also like broken people in their youth, right. The adventure, the thrill, the loneliness, the desperation. All this stuff lives under the same umbrella of like life. And I think as we get older, we crave stability.
Right. I think she was young. She's like, this dude has a lot of money. He's super fun. He parties a lot. Because I was like, yeah, we'll go to Vegas together. We'll do all this crazy stuff. So I think she's young and it was an adventure. That's probably what it was.
Well, either way, is there anything else you'd like to say before we're done? Because you've brought a lot of stuff to the table, a lot of Dopey to the table.
Oh, I need to go into the ending of my story with the sentencing.
Yeah.
That's we'll end it with that, or somewhere around that. So okay, I'll be real. So in 2022, I think it was, or 22 or 23, I was supposed to have my sentencing. I had it, and I get into court. Dude, I don't know if you've ever been to court for anything like that, but like I was like, fuck, I don't know what the prosecutor's gonna ask for. Now, me and my buddy pled guilty early. At first they were thinking about trying to get me to testify against my boss, but then they were like, no, this dude was too fucked up. He could never I didn't want to testify anyway. So I was like, I didn't even have to be asked. Because like the FBI agents
Why did they think you were so fucked up?
They knew about the drugs and all that. They were like, this dude no one will believe his testimony. So they didn't even ask me to testify. But because I went into a proffer meeting with the FBI around 2019 timeframe. And I was high when I met with I haven't told that story, but just I went in on Xanax and Coke to meet with the FBI because I was like scared and I was depressed at the time. So I like candy flip both, I guess. But I didn't even have to say much. But they pulled out this like mountain of evidence against me. They're like, we have people that are going to testify against you that you were paying to do the crime and get the prescriptions and all that. So I ended up pleading guilty because they had like a mountain of evidence. And they're like, we'll ask for a lower sentence, if you do that. So in court, they were like, they asked for a 2.5-year sentence for me in like 2022. But my probation officer had never told the judge the extent of my mental illness. So like during my speech to her, I brought all the paperwork from Waukeva Springs, the mental hospital from my...
Thank God you had gone to that mental hospital. Yeah, oh my God.
That, and then I had letters from other doctors. Like I'd seen other psychiatrists. Right. But she was about to sentence me. I probably would have got 1 or 2 years, but my lawyer says the only time he's ever seen this, she basically said, Mr. Funes, due to the extent of your mental illness, I can't sentence you today. I need to like think about this. But then I had to wait like 2 or 3 more years before my actual sentencing was December of last year. And that's when my TikTok blew up because I had nothing to lose at this point. So I don't know if you saw it, I made a video in the airport. I'm like, I'm headed to my sentencing, guys, like blah, blah, blah. That they got like 3 million views. And everyone's like, did he go to jail? Like, what's going to happen to this guy? Because I just was like, I'm going to document my sentencing. As I honestly was thinking I probably wouldn't get much time, if any, by this point, because my lawyer's like, you've been waiting 9.5 years. Like, you've had this hanging over your head like a decade. Like, it'd be torture for them to give you a sentence at this point, and because of the mental health stuff. But yeah, in that sentencing, I ended up getting a time served sentence, which means the probation counted as my time. So I did not end up doing any prison time.
Thank God.
And now hanging over your head for 9.5 years is kind of
like
a prison
sentence in itself. Yeah, I had a guy on the show who he had 12 years hanging over his head, and he had to keep. They had him. He had to keep, or he chose to keep snitching out dealers on Long Island, and then finally he was like, "Fuck it," and he wound up only having to do 4 months.
Oh wow.
But for years, they had it over his head, and he was using over it and like miserable. And I think having a sentence over your head is a sentence in itself.
It is. That's what my lawyer said. And actually, it's a crazy thing. So my boss got off completely. He was, I think, a week or two. They were trying to give him 14 to 18 years, but he ended up getting a new lawyer, like a court-appointed lawyer, because he said he couldn't afford one anymore. And this dude was like a bulldog, and he apparently, the government had messed things up with like the witnesses that they had. So he was able to get completely off because of that. So I think that helped our case a lot. That's why it dragged out 9.5 years, is my boss got like a second trial, like all this crazy stuff was happening. So because of that, I had to just keep waiting for my sentencing. So only 2 people got sentenced to prison in my case. And there was like 13 of us that got indicted.
Wow.
Well, there was probably 100 people involved in this, if you're counting the people we were, like doctors we were paying, people, things like that. But they only indicted like the top earning people, which I was one of them. But 2 people went to prison. One guy got a year. One guy got 4 months. And I get a lot of shit about it because they're like, oh, it's because you're white or this, and did white collar stuff. I was like, dude, half the people in my company were black. And and I know there obviously is the racial prejudice sometimes, but not in my case. It was one black guy and one white guy that did time, and they both had priors, so they kind of had to do time.
Listen, you dodged a bullet either way. Yeah. You dodged a bullet, and now you're like making this crazy social media that really helps people and cheers them up, and like people. I mean, I read a lot of comments. People love you, and it's great to see how your fucked up misadventures help other people.
Yeah, I try to say like my mess is like my message now. Like really my whole goal in life is just sharing my story to help and encourage other people who are struggling, because so many people are suffering in silence with mental illness, addiction.
Sure.
And that's who I want to talk to, because I want to show them, if there was like hope for me with everything I've been through, there's hope for everyone out there.
I love it. And you're writing a book.
It's about done. Right now it's going through the final editing and proofreading. I think I'm gonna, unless I change the title right now, I have it called Bipolar Guy Living Life. And it's gonna tell all the stories of all these people. I call that the chaos, but I also wrote about the comeback, because I want to like give people hope and show them how I came back from all this.
You weren't gonna call it like the final showdown between Methhead David and Sarak Poppy?
I paid a cover art guy I hope the cover art turns dope, because I want Methhead David, Sarak, I want all of them on the cover in like this crazy art style, so that they'll be celebrated through that.
And how much do any of them know about your social media infamy?
Okay, so I don't know where Methhead David or Sarak. The only thing I know about Sarak Poppy is that he did 2 years shortly after this. He got another gun charge, but the dealer I ran into the dealer that traded me to him, and he said that after the 2 years, he doesn't know what happened to him. Method David, I haven't heard from him either. Felicia, she lives in Austin. She has a cute daughter now. She seems to be, she works at like a vet office now. She's doing really well.
Like a vet tech?
Yeah, like a vet tech.
And we don't, Methhead David is in the woods. We don't know where he is. And old girl, we don't know where she is.
No clue.
And what about Shelby?
I don't know where any of them.
T-Rex?
I don't know where he is.
All right, Dopey Nation, if you know any of these people, please inform them how well David is doing. And thank you for coming, David. It was so fun.
Yeah,
Did you have a good time?
I had such a good time.
Good. Howie, any questions?
Thanks for having me, though.
No, dude, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It was fun. It's great. Crazy story. It's also like how bipolar itself is a drug.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. Hand in hand for sure.
All right, good. Thanks, man.